Heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Plus Platoon. My name's Derek, and the Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed, and you will never miss a moment. Well, a platoon is not a platoon with one person. So I want to bring in my girl, Kate. Kate, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing so good, my friend. How are you?
Hanging in there. School's started, but everything's going well.
I feel that.
Next, I'm going to bring in Peter. Pete, how you doing this evening?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing great.
And then we've got Rebecca. Rebecca, how's it going this evening?
It is going so good. I'm so excited. We're all here this week.
We are all here, which means we've got Sam. Sam, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing so great, you guys, because 2 days ago I was at Castaway Cay, and 3 days ago I was at Castaway Cay. So, I mean, what better place in the world is there than Castaway Cay?
I'll give you a list. Well, I said, please like, subscribe, and share on all the different social medias. And we are now on almost all of the major podcast services. I'm looking at you, Apple. So
I want to do a Kermit the Frog.
Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, Stitcher. We're on there. Just search Plus Platoon, and we're the only ones on there. So get on there, and this episode will be on that podcast very, very shortly. So,
yay.
That being said, there is a lot of Disney Plus news this week. Kate, what have we got going on?
Oh, everybody, it's time for Disney Plus news. You're welcome. First of all, Making of the Mandalorian Season 2 is coming out tomorrow, and Season 3 will start production next month. So if you're a Mandalorian fan, boom, there you go. We've been following the Behind the Attraction series that's come out. Episodes 6 through 10 release tomorrow. So we'll be looking at those a little at a later date. Now, who remembers Goosebumps? I remember Goosebumps. We have R.L. Stine book Just Beyond series has released photos which are likely to come out in the time for Halloween, which is super exciting. I'm really pumped for that. Throwing it back to the old school, we have the Disney Plus movie Peter Pan and Wendy. It just finished filming and will release in 2022. It is based off of the original play and the 1953 animated movie, which we have talked about here on the podcast. And last but certainly not least, Disney Plus has commissioned a remake of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea to be called Nautilus. Get excited. Derek, back to you, my friend.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So a couple of those I'm really looking forward to. That Nautilus could be kind of intriguing. So
yeah.
I wonder if it could be a whale of a tale, but we shall see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. This week
He'll be here all night, everyone.
Yes, I will be here all night. So this week we are reaching back into the vault again, and we are watching Swiss Family Robinson. Now, this is the 1960 adaptation of the John Weiss novel that was published in 1812 with very little cannon fire. There was already a 1940 movie that stuck very, very close to the book. And interestingly, Disney bought up every print of that so that it wouldn't show anywhere while this one was showing. When Disney created this one, the whole idea was, what would you want to experience on an island? They basically threw away most of the book. The movie was number one at the box office of 1960. It beat out Psycho and Spartacus. So two really big movies. It brought in $40 million and almost 60 million tickets sold.
Wow.
So now, if you could think about, if you would have averaged today's price of $10 a ticket, which is cheap, that'd be $600 million. So that would have put it at number one in 2020 due to the pandemic. And it would have put it similar to Ant-Man and the Wasp in 2018. So there would have been probably 24 more shows in this series because, Disney likes to milk a cash cow. So the first thing we're going to talk about tonight, Rebecca, what is worthy of celebration? What did you like about the show?
My mom always told me that if you didn't have anything nice to say, to not say anything at all. So, Sam, what do you think?
That's hilarious, Rebecca. So this movie is, kind of a fun early Disney adventure movie where the kids are kind of the stars, I would say, but they're teen stars, not really little kid stars. The youngest son, I don't know any of the actors' names, so I'm not going to even try, but the youngest son is kind of hilarious and charming and has all these crazy bright ideas, one of which is to capture an elephant, another of which is to capture a tiger in order to fight the pirates. So there's a lot of fun adventure in this movie. There's this awesome treehouse that this family built that's also, someplace I would kind of love to live. Yeah, it's right in Derek's background. You can see it. Sorry, I'm pointing the wrong direction. But the treehouse is really cool. The fact that these folks travel across the seas to find a new life and to build a new colony. And then they end up doing it, just not, they end up doing it at a deserted island instead of at New Guinea as they had originally planned. There's, I think, a lot of fun adventure in this movie. We have the other question we'll get to later as to, parts of it that are quite dated. And not so good. But I would say this is a fun Disney adventure movie. Derek, what did you think?
Guys, this is such a fun movie. There's animals, there's pirates. There is an amazing pool that I want in my backyard, which actually, guys, was actually a natural pool that is still there and you can still go swim in. It has coconut bombs, guys. This is such a great movie for kids. As a kid, my brother and I used to pretend that our stairs were the hill that needed defending, and we would have plastic baseball bats were the logs that rolled down. Then we had a wall of stuffed animals that we would throw down as the rocks that exploded, and it was just so much fun. Disney used to actually sell these old wooden rifles that were the old Davy Crockett rifles that those were the guns that were at the top. This is such a fun movie. Growing up, this was in my top 5. As a little boy, this was in my top 5. I'm also going to say this movie's got very strong female characters, which was unusual for 1960. Mother, and I guess that's her name, but it's mother and father because that's the name out of the books. She's an equal to him. She's never afraid to voice her opinion. She can do whatever she wants. She shoots a pirate. She's, father knows that she is his equal, and that is not usual for a 1960s movie. While Roberta is not quite as strong, she stands up for what she wants. She knows how to shoot. She's an active participant in the fight. And guys,
she knows how to flirt.
Well,
she does know how to flirt.
Guys, there was even a working mother on the set. The python was pregnant.
No.
So I loved this movie. Kate, I'm a little hesitant, but what were your thoughts?
So we're talking about good things right now.
Yes.
While this isn't my favorite movie of all time, growing up, I was a huge Little House on the Prairie and Laura Ingalls Wilder fan. And I want to say that the TV show from Laura Ingalls Wilder was made in the 60s or 70s.
Yes.
And this movie gave me very big Little House vibes. So I didn't watch this movie as a kid. I don't think I ever saw this as a kid. I think I probably would have liked it as a kid, because it gave me that it made, when I would watch Little House on the Prairie, I wanted to go outside and like play in my tree house and make little foods out of dirt and stuff. I think this movie would have instilled that in me had I watched it as a kid. And yeah, it was good. And I liked the set design. I liked the creativity of the treehouse a lot. I thought that was cool. Pete?
I guess that's not a whole lot, Kate.
Well, I have to say, I don't remember this movie from my childhood, though it was around at the time. But I don't remember seeing it. I probably did, but quite honestly, I didn't. We did watch it about 3 or 4 years ago when it was on the TCM, when Disney had the TCM from the Vault Nights. So this is the second time I've seen it in recent years, and I really enjoyed it. I can't say it was, a top 5, but I think it's one of we watched a ton of the old 50s and 60s Disney movies from when Walt was running the studios, and this is really one of the best ones by far. Even better than 20,000 Leagues, which I think that movie drags a little bit. This movie didn't. It was tight enough. It didn't really drag at any point. As Derek said, very much an adventure movie. It did focus on the teen heroes. There was a whole section in the middle where the 2 boys went off and kind of had their own story. And always the father and the mother were there, but they weren't really the focus. And I would say also, I didn't find it. It held up pretty well. I mean, there's some things you could argue, but I thought overall it held up pretty well for something that was 60 years old. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah.
The last one, right?
Yeah. Ryan does say he always gets Swiss Family Robinson mixed up with Lost in Space's Danger Will Robinson. Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Same family though. That's the Lost in Space was based on Swiss Family Robinson. So
was Meet the Robinsons a little bit. So
yeah, a little bit.
Gina says, think this movie was targeted to tween and teens in 1960. It was definitely definitely a boy targeted movie in the 60s. Not completely. Now, so we've talked about what's civilization. There are some tie-ins real quick to some other movies though. So, father, John Mills. You guys all know his daughter. Haley Mills is his daughter, and she actually visited the set right after she was doing Pollyanna at the same time with James Corcoran, who was the little one. Help, not Friends, not Ernst. Francis. Thank you.
Francis, yeah.
So yeah, she visited the set. Disney never did, but a lot of them visited. Dorothy McGuire, Tommy Kirk, and Kevin Corcoran were all in Old Yeller together in 1957. So this is a pseudo prequel.
Yeah, lots of Disney history in this movie.
Yes. One of the dogs was also the Ugly Dachshund. One of the Great Danes was the Ugly Dachshund. And here's the big one. One of the biggest fans of this movie is George Lucas.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Now there's a rumor out there that he named Anakin Skywalker after the director Ken Anakin. He has denied that in interviews, but there are 2 direct ties. The trash compactor scene is the Python scene, if you think about it. And in Return of the Jedi, almost the entire Ewok fight scene has ties to the pirate scene, including chopping the logs and making people fall down.
Oh, funny.
There's the chopping the logs that knocks down the ATST walkers. it's from this. So this does tie into some other shows. Now,
Yeah, and even the Ewok village was inspired by the
by the
That's true.
Treehouses.
Treehouse. Yep.
Yeah, I remember. I did know that, Pete. That's a really cool
Yeah.
fact. Yeah.
Okay. Sam, what makes you want to pick up a coconut bomb and just throw it at the movie?
Okay, so there's a couple of things. I mean, clearly there's some, racist tropes here with the Asian pirates. I don't even know what culture these pirates are supposed to come from, because they use such a weird mishmash of costuming and adornments, and it was, that part was really cringeworthy for sure. I don't know what they would have done differently in 1960 that we would have found acceptable today. I'm not sure there would be really anything that they would have done in 1960 that we would have found acceptable today, as far as the way they portray the pirates or the whatever culture the pirates came from. But I didn't like that. The other part that is quite cringeworthy is just the helplessness of Roberta. I mean, even Mother too. Mother has a lot of decision-making authority in the relationship. Like Father does defer to her as far as whether the boys can go around the island, but really Mother can't climb up the treehouse, or is too, she can't do anything physical. I mean, I get it was a different time, but you get stranded on a deserted island and everyone has to rise to the occasion. I don't care what gender you are. So that part was like, with both Birdie and Mother, I just felt like, come on, ladies. Like, I get you're supposed to be dainty and ladylike, and you're supposed to have different gender roles for that time period, but you're on a deserted island. You're stranded. Pick up an axe and chop some wood, right? Like, help out a little bit. So that's the part that I didn't love. The way it was a little bit different than I sort of expected. It's been so long since I saw this movie. I saw this movie as a kid, haven't seen it in probably 30 plus years. But watching that part, I actually expected it to be a little bit different. But some of these gender norms are just frustrating watching them with 2021 eyes. Like I said, I've got to give it a little bit of credit. Derek pointed out a few things that were these women for their age were actually, or for their time period, actually were kind of cutting edge, ahead of their time. I wouldn't call them feminists, but they were at least more equal than most women were in 1960. So giving it that little bit of kudos, but huge criticisms on the gender norms and huge criticisms on the weird cultural appropriation and racist tropes of the Asian pirates. Derek?
Muted.
Let's just keep him on mute.
I'm not going to argue with you on the pirates. Yeah. I will say they were actually speaking an Indonesian dialect, so for most of the lines. So it was actually, they actually tried a little bit, because New Guinea is over in Indonesia, so they did try a little bit. Now, a bunch of English actors in yellowface. Yeah, the only one who was actually from that part of the world was the pirate captain. Mm-hmm. So nice. Yes, yeah, I totally get it. The thing, and I think Kate may touch on this a little bit, guys, this is one of the worst movies for animal abuse.
Oh yeah.
And so
yeah, I forgot that part. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'll let Kate touch on this a little bit more, but I will also say that, guys, this was the norm for the time. I'm not saying it was right. I'm saying in 1960, they didn't care if animals got hurt. I'm saying even in the 1970s, I still remember the scene from Patton at the very beginning. They actually shoot 2 vultures. Yeah, they do.
Won't be watching that movie.
Yeah. Now, it's also not Old Yeller. So, but I mean, to me, the biggest problem of the movie is the trip across the island really drags. To me, they could have cut 10 to 15 minutes. Yes, we get it's a long way. It was hard. They walked through water. We get it. Okay. As a film criticism, you cut 10 to 15 minutes out of the middle, and it's about right. Now, the 6-year-old in me wants to add except for the kissing parts. But Peter Falk was right. Eventually, I didn't mind so much. So, Kate, what didn't you like about the film?
Excuse me while I step up on this soapbox here.
That Ryan prepared for you to get on, by the way.
Yeah, Ryan got it up there for you.
So the movie started and it showed all of the animals in the boat. And I looked at my boyfriend and said, I just know they're not going to let all those animals die. And then they're like, come on, puppies, and the dog. And I believe I messaged all of you at that point and said, if these dogs die, like, I swear to Walt Disney himself, I am turning this off.
And I told you it wasn't.
You said Yeller. It's not Old Yeller. But I had this weird gut feeling before, because when we watch movies in the vault, not only do I like to watch the movie, but I also like to do research on it, to hear the behind the scenes stuff, whatever. Excuse me. That was a mistake doing that on this movie, because I found out that they were harming the animals. The animals were hurt and killed in the creating of this movie. And that that kind of did it for me. It took me out of, like, I just couldn't get back into it. I couldn't get past that. I wanted to like this movie. I wanted, because it is so nostalgic. Birdie, Roberta, wanted to throw her over the cliff. Just throw her right over it.
She was a kind of a pain, wasn't she?
Like, she was flirting with both those brothers.
Yeah.
And I looked at Casey and I was like, oh, she knows exactly what she's doing. And, like, girl got game. I'll give her that. But, like, come on. She plays, like, the super, super dainty, I don't know how to shoot a gun. And then she takes the gun and she's like, I think I got this. Boom. Hits the rock. Like, come on, man.
She was aiming for 3 over, but no.
Yeah, I didn't like her character all that much. Fun fact for you: the only person who is still alive from the cast is Tommy Kirk, who played the middle brother. And yeah, so it's just I couldn't get past the animal cruelty. I couldn't, because then I couldn't even, because a lot of times when you watch a movie and, like, a horse gets shot or something, like, I have a visceral reaction when animals are harmed in movies, but at least I know, like, no animals were actually harmed in the making of this. And I couldn't say that to myself. And I just kept getting more and more mad. So, I'm
glad I didn't do the same research that you did, Kate, because it would have given me a very different view of the movie. I'll be honest.
Yeah. So, Pete, what you got?
Okay, well, so I guess I'm going to defend the movie a little bit. Of course, it's never good that, you take white actors and have them play Asian characters. But I think as far as the portrayal of the pirates, I mean, the movie takes place in Napoleonic times, which is like early 1800s. What would we expect type of pirates to be in New Guinea and wherever in that area in 1810? They would be Asian pirates, and they would be, vicious and everything like that. So I don't really fault the movie that much for that. And again, in terms of the actors, that was kind of what Hollywood did. Not that it was a good thing or anything, but I don't really blame that. The animal stuff, yeah. I didn't like that. There were a couple scenes where you could kind of tell that things were not going well for the animals, so to speak. The zebra, I was more thinking when the dogs were attacking the tiger.
Okay. And now on that one, those dogs knew that tiger, and they were actually playing and having a good time. Well, yes, they were actually, those dogs knew that tiger. So that's,
I was assuming
not the same
that.
dogs. because they're
Yeah.
not the same dogs that are Duke and Turk.
Oh,
So
interesting.
those dogs did know the tiger. I'm more talking about the zebra that got electric shocks to make it jump in the mud.
Oh, you
So-
got electric shocks to make it jump in the mud?
Why are you
Uh-huh.
telling me these things? I don't want to
Yeah,
know that.
why? I need either. Why are you telling me, you guys? I don't.
As Ryan says,
Now I'm not
he
going to
learns
watch this.
learn something new every week, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, I'm definitely
So-
not watching this movie again then.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
So yeah, I mean the animal stuff, and I kind of agree with Birdie being like the, kind of leading on the two guys, and I guess she ended up picking one of them at the end, so I suppose not bad, but I don't know what else would happen though when there's one girl and two guys. They're both going to be vying for her, right? If you're if you were in that real situation on a deserted island. The one thing I didn't like was Sam mentioned she liked Francis, the little boy. I couldn't stand him. He was that perfect 60s overacting child, and just like he was to me so obnoxious. I mean, yeah, they gave him some good ideas and things like that, but I was just like, oh, would you shut up? So
I loved his crazy kooky ideas, Pete. It wasn't so much him like as an actor, but I really loved the crazy kooky ideas because he was the one with sort of his grand plans, right? And so to me, it sort of kept some of the adventure part of the movie moving. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I couldn't.
But I agree. I don't think his acting skills were great.
No.
Well, it was very much.
No one has
that-
ever said his acting skills were great.
Yeah.
So-
child actor of the time. That's pretty much how they acted.
That was what they were
if you
expected to
yeah.
do. Yeah.
So, but I will allow. I'm guessing Rebecca has a few things to say, so I'm going to allow Rebecca to input because I don't have a ton of negativity myself towards it. So, go for it, Rebecca.
Well, I did find I wrote one positive thing about the movie, and it has nothing to do with the movie contents at all. And it's the fact that the song that Roberta and the dad dance to is used on the carousel at Magic Kingdom. And so I thought, oh, okay, that's where that song comes from. I had never known where that came from before.
Sorry, well, we have technical sound difficulties at Rebecca's place.
Sorry about that. So I had never known where that song came from before, and so I instantly recognized it, and that was probably the only thing. I did not even have to do any of the research that Kate had done prior to the movie to understand that the way they use these animals was so horribly wrong. And I'll be honest, like, I paused the movie right when they got to the island, thinking that I was like, I'm already almost done. Like, how did it go so fast? Like, I feel like that was super quick. Not even maybe a third of the way through with it, and I'm like, what else is there? Like, I was much more looking. Like, I thought the movie was, oh, this family is going on this adventure and this journey. They're going to this new colony. And they end up crashing, and now they have to like learn to survive. They end up building this tree house. The tree house is supposed to be the most magical thing. That was the end. They figured out how to survive, and they love living there. Come to think of it, they flourished the second they get there, and they have no problems. Everyone's got food. No one's worried about the rain except for the first night. Like there was literally nothing that had gone wrong. And so I was like, that's a little obnoxious. I don't want to touch on Roberta's character because everyone else already has. That was enough for me. I could not and I will not get past the use of the animals. I hadn't read anything that Kate had sent in the messaging like before I'd watched the movie, and so I was like thinking the same thing. I'm like, these dogs are gonna. I'm literally gonna watch them drown. Like they're literally gonna put it in the movie. I can't. Why? What in the world? Change of heart. Okay, I'm like, ooh, all right. Little bit of redemption there, and then I was like, the rest of the animals are still there. You have to get the rest of the animals out, and they do. They go back and they get the rest of the animals out and bring them onto the thing. And I was like, okay, more redemption. Like we're not killing any of the animals, and then they're riding them over and over and over again. You could tell the ostrich major anxiety just from that. That was not the ostrich wasn't paid to do that. Like, it quite literally was flailing around with its neck and not wanting to be touched, and it was, you could visibly see it. You did not need to know that they were harmed or hurt during the film and the making of it for that to happen. So I really wish that the movie had stopped the second they got to the island. Well, okay, after they've rescued all the animals. I thought the boys, Roberta really ruined. I thought that whole trope and everything that she had done was not necessary to the story. And so, yeah, the whole thing makes me want to throw a coconut bomb. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Ryan did say that we needed Jane from Tarzan to be the mother in this. I'm sorry. No, which Tarzan? If you're talking the animated one, I still kind of got the same feeling from her. So for a good chunk of it, she reminded me. I mean, she and Mother would have gotten along real well, I think, personally. But now this movie does tie in to the parks at Disneyland. Disneyland, actually, this movie came out in 1960. The Treehouse opened in 1962 it was actually a C ticket attraction. It eventually became a B ticket attraction, which was Alice in Wonderland, the Casey Jr. train. So, like, the second tier of rides, not the horses on Main Street and those kind of things. When it opened, John Mills, Haley, the family were there. The Disneyland one in 1999 became Tarzan's Treehouse. It was rethemed over the course of about 4 months and became Tarzan's Treehouse. The Magic Kingdom version was an opening day attraction, 1971. There's additions in Disneyland Paris and Tokyo Disneyland. For those of you not familiar, it's basically a walk-through or walk-up that allows people to see the house from the movie. You see the kitchen with all the gadgets. You see the bedroom with the ceiling that opens. You see the living area with the organ playing the music that gets stuck in your head worse than It's a Small World. But this leads us to our last question. I'm going over to Pete to start on this one. Does the attraction need changed? And if so, how does it need to change?
So as you're describing all that, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, there's an attraction in Magic Kingdom, the most boring attraction in all of Magic Kingdom. And and honestly, the Tarzan version is not much better. I haven't been in the Swiss Family Treehouse in a long, long time. I don't think we've ever gone through it with my daughter. I remember even as a kid going through it and going, what is this that I'm seeing? It's so what do they need to do with it? They probably need to put something else there, quite honestly. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't take up that big a footprint, and there's probably very little maintenance to it. So they get to list it as an attraction. So they're probably not doing anything to it. But does anybody go, oh, let's do that again? Right? I don't know. It's there's anything else. Get rid of that before you get rid of anything else. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
What about you, Rebecca? Are you a fan?
I genuinely, yeah. I also really like in the Dinosaur Land, the little jungle gym they have in there too. That and the treehouse are two of the things that I remember as a kid loving going in. I read the Magic Treehouse books as a kid, and I dreamed of having my own treehouse to go up into. And I really do think the foliage is beautiful. It doesn't really resemble the movie all that much. Like, it doesn't really talk about, like, I don't read those little placards things on the side. I just kind of walk through and like good to go up and do all the stairs and the rope bridges and stuff. And I think that it's fun. I think if you're looking for just literally an easier way to get to Adventureland past the spinning camel outside of Aladdin, and you just want to kind of go through it, why not? There's never anybody there. And it's pretty beautiful. I think that just the trees and the bridges. I do really like it. Now, we never go on it. When I'm ever there, it's never one of the things, but I will never turn it down either. If someone wants to go, I'm like, for sure. I'm with you on it. We'll go right now. But yeah, Sam?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Rebecca here. I think it's a good place for particularly younger kids to get a little movement break, meaning where they can like sort of run around. I actually really like the Redwood Creek Trail in Disney's California Adventure Park. And I wish that they would re-theme the treehouse in Magic Kingdom and do something more. I don't know, they could do something like Chip and Dale Treehouse or something like that. And, make it a little bit more interactive for the younger kids. I like having these things like jungle gyms, like Rebecca referred to, things that kids can climb on and be physical in, because there's not a lot of that in the parks. In the parks, it's mostly like waiting in line and then you're sitting in a ride seat, right? And some kids really need these, I'm calling them a movement break, but it's not a break where you sit down on the couch or a bench. It's a break where you can move around. So I actually really like those types of experiences. You can do it on like Tom Sawyer Island, things like that. There are places in the parks you can do that, but there's not really enough of them. So I think they could do more with it. I don't think eliminate it. I just think update it and maybe re-theme it, right? I mean, Redwood Creek Trail at California Adventure right now is undergoing a renovation, so I don't know what it's going to look like. But I like things like that for the younger kid set. Derek?
So I thought about this way too hard. So initially, I cannot think of a good vehicle for change. It's not Tarzan. I know there have been rumors of a remake of Swiss Family Robinson. Disney Plus, in theory, was ordering a series on it. To me, that screams Lone Ranger and John Carter all over. Just terrible. Is the attraction working now? No. To me, I bulldoze it. Okay? Because if you bulldoze it, that gets you about 50,000 square feet. And here's where I'm going to go out on a limb. Okay, 50,000 square feet, twice the size of Buzz, or about the size of Little Mermaid. Okay? Bulldoze Crystal Palace with it. Okay? That gets you 100,000 square feet. That's the size of Big Thunder. Okay? So, first one that came to mind was Bambi. The way they're getting rid of the shooting arcades, you can't do Bambi. Next one I thought had potential was Narnia. Okay? Narnia, if you've got a small entrance, you create a wardrobe setting, you get into Narnia. Okay? You could do Brother Bear. Again, nobody watched it. But the one that came back, okay, so if you want to bump it back a little bit, you could either do Zootopia, because we've long been promised a Zootopia expansion. You could throw a little Zootopia land right in there. Or Disney now owns a lot of non-originally Disney stuff. Here's one for you. It's the fire swamp in Princess Bride. And you make the tree, inside the tree is the pit of despair. You do the Princess Bride right there. Because that would work. That would fit with Adventureland. And it's a Disney property because Buttercup is now a Disney princess. So that's my idea. If that happens, Disney, I want 10%. So Kate,
Derek, you've thought way too much about this.
I told you, I thought way too hard on this. I even went on, measured it out, and saw the size of it all. There's room.
The peasants would riot. Go ahead, Pete.
I'm getting 100,000 square feet inside Magic Kingdom. I'm putting an Indiana Jones ride. So go ahead, Kate.
Tear out Dinosaur and put it back there because it's the same ride.
True. So, first of all, I am very impressed with how much thought you put into that. I don't think it works right now. I think it worked when the movie was super relevant. Like when Disneyland opened or even when World opened, I think people still had a healthy obsession with it. I mean, look at how much we still love movies from the 90s, the classics from the 90s. I think kids nowadays don't get it. They don't know what Swiss Family Robinson is. I mean, I know, Rebecca, you said you hadn't watched this movie before, right? Yeah, no, I hadn't either. Sam, I think, did you say that you hadn't really watched it either as a kid? Really?
I watched it once as a kid, but I didn't remember it. Like I was born in 1980, and so I definitely saw it sometime in the earlier mid 80s, but that's the last time I saw it.
I feel like the only time I might have seen it, because I was a weird nerdy kid and I would stay up late and watch The Vault. It was actually called The Vault, and it had like World of Color, and it had Zorro, and it had the original Mickey Mouse Club. And I'm pretty sure that this was on that. It was like late at night.
Yeah, I remember seeing this on, what was it called? Derek will remember, where they would show the Disney movies.
Wonderful World of Disney.
Wonderful World of Disney.
Yeah.
That's how I think I saw this.
Got it. So I actually love the idea of it being Tarzan. I think Tarzan is still super relevant. When not COVID, he still comes out at the Halloween parties. People know, like, Turk comes out in the parks. You can meet Tarzan and Turk. I just think that now, is that a bit of a throwback? Yes. But listen, when did Avatar come out? And Disney, like 6 years later, was like, yo, maybe we should make an Avatar thing. And then 10 years after that, they were like, oh, here you go. So time really has no meaning for whatsoever. But I would say, if you're not going to make it Tarzan, you could even maybe extend because isn't it sort of by Jungle Cruise?
Yes.
Couldn't you make it like a walkthrough somehow of a Jungle Cruise, if you could extend that and maybe even tie in the new movie?
There is water that goes around it. It is tied in to the water of Jungle
Cruise.
Okay.
But it's also kind of like Tom Sawyer's Island, where it's like, this is cool. I don't really know what, like, if Tom Sawyer Island was still doing the thing where they hid the paintbrushes and you had to find the paintbrushes, that would be one thing. But
yeah, more scavenger hunt or interactive stuff. I agree with you. I think, and re-theming, right? You don't need it to be Tom Sawyer anymore. You don't need it to be Swiss Family Robinson anymore. Let's update the theming, even if it was like I said, Chip and Dale or something. Let's update the theming and make it more interactive.
And Sam made a really, really good point, and Rebecca made this point too, that there isn't, while yes, kids are walking from ride to ride, there isn't really a place where they can kind of let loose and burn some of that energy, that kinetic energy, you know what I'm talking about? And that's something I hadn't thought about. Like, that's something that Sam thinks about because she, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I want to put more thought in. I wish I had put as much thought into it as Derek did, because now my wheels are turning. But I love the Tarzan idea. I think that's great, like Disneyland.
As you guys were like giving your ideas, I thought of something way back. I don't know, not too many years ago. They had Pixie Hollow in Epcot, I believe.
It was gonna be at Magic Kingdom.
Well, no, they used to have a place.
It was a flower and garden. It was a flower and garden thing, I think.
But you could go and meet all of the fairies, and I think Tinkerbell literally lived in the grass and in the trees and in the roots and all of that stuff. You could probably if I were to retheme it, its location is pretty tricky because it's not very fairy world-ish, but if you could somehow configure to you going underground, or you're getting down to that fairy level and you're now in Pixie Hollow and you can see the Tinker stuff, and here are where the garden fairies do their work, and here are where the water fairies, if you have the river from the Jungle Cruise and stuff. My sister was obsessed with the Pixie Hollow, and I love the Tinkerbell movies, and so I think that would be how I would revamp it if I could.
Okay.
That's the best idea. So far, because I vote for it.
Because Tarzan's not working at Disneyland, Kate. It's not.
Wow.
So
I love Tarzan as a theming idea too, Kate. But I agree. I still think they need to revamp both the Disneyland and the Disney World ones and just make them more fun, more interactive.
And
Yeah,
Disneyland
I
one's
love
just kind of
love
in the
that
way.
idea. Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead, Pete. Yeah,
Sorry, the Disneyland one's just kind of in the way. It's like right
Yeah.
kind of in the middle when you're going from Adventureland to, I guess, New Orleans Square.
Right by
And,
Indiana Jones entrance. It's like it makes
Yeah.
that entrance really, really tight too.
I think you're totally right though that there is something. Even like look at like over at Epcot how they have where there's like little scavenger hunts in the World Show Place. Like making it where you're looking for something or it is interactive and it's not just like, oh, this is nice. So now we're in this room. Okay, now we'll walk to like make it where you're looking for something or you're trying to solve. I don't know. Just making
Right.
it more interactive.
Right.
Okay.
Kids don't like museums where you're just looking at pictures. Kids like museums where you're interacting with them.
Right.
So bring in some of the elements from the Big Thunder Mountain queue, where you're cranking stuff and making things explode and helping defeat the pirates. Even
You're
can
testing
do
the
it that
different
way.
fairy. No, you're testing the different fairy powers.
That's what I
You
like. Is
build
like you could
things
have
as
a
the tinkers,
you have an
and you
area.
can paint the ladybugs and.
I like that.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, Gina says, it's a teardown. At Disneyland have the little man from Disneyland and they can make
Yeah,
a town
in the
for
tree.
him.
The little man in the tree from
They
Disneyland.
can relocate him.
Or this, yeah. Ryan's not too sure about my Bambi idea, but okay, I knew it wouldn't work, but it was the first thing that came to mind because as I was scrolling through, okay, what movies could it be? That was one of the first ones that came up, and I went, no. Now, completely unrelated, but if you're gonna retheme a land to a non-Disney property, but not have to do much work, Dino Land to Ice Age.
I
mean, it
have
would
my
work, but-
suspicions on what Dino Land is going to become.
It
Okay.
should be Wakanda, but I don't know.
Mhm.
You can't in
I
Florida.
know you can't, but it
You can't
should
in
be.
Florida. And that's because of all sorts of different rights issues with Universal and Marvel and way back when. So anyway, we got to do our pixie dust rating. Kate, pixie dust rating out of 5 for the movie.
2.
Okay. Pete?
I'm gonna go. I know I do this a lot. 3.5.
Okay.
Zero.
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 Ditto to which one?
No, zero.
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 I said it in Spanish,
Wow.
but
She
yeah.
said it in Spanish.
Zero.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm gonna give it. I'm kind of in between a 2.5 and a 3, so I'm gonna give it a 2.75.
Okay. If I was still 6, I'd give it a 5. I asked my 13-year-old son, who hasn't watched it in several years. He said he'd give it a 4 to 4.5. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, between the nostalgia factor and this is going to sound the fun for little kids factor, I'm going to give it a 4.5. Are there parts that didn't stand up well? Yes, but to me, it's the favorite one I've watched so far on this show. If you go back and look, it's by far my highest ranking.
Better than Sandlot?
Yes.
Just sit there and be wrong, and let's hear from Kate.
Well, Kate already started. Kate started.
That's right. Kate started. Darn it.
Kate doesn't get another turn. Kate started this.
I wanted to.
Yeah, Kate was a 2. So, as you can see, we're all over the place. But to me, that's what makes us great. Is we don't agree. So, if you've got other movies you want us to see, you've got other movies coming up. There's a couple gaps in September and October where Disney doesn't have much coming out. We're looking for a diamond in the rough or a vault show in there. So email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com, please. We get tired of selecting everything. So
yeah, tell us what you want Platoon's Day to be like.
Yeah, I think I want to see something like 90s, early 2000s. Let's do something that's not so far back in the history that we end up talking about.
I want to do something that's a me throwback.
Yes.
Something that's a my throwback, not a
Okay.
Walt Disney's throwback.
Okay. So next week, and I know some of the people on this show have been looking forward to this for ever since it came out on Plus and Premium. Cruella is coming out. It is the prequel to, it is the backstory of Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians. Now, Pete, those of you who have seen it, is it animated Cruella or Glenn Close Cruella?
It is more like Glenn Close Cruella, I would say, but it's different from both. It's not animated, so she's not that far. She's not that like evil, crazy. She's more quirky, evil, but she's not that evil. So anyway, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a really fun movie. It's live action. There are animals, but I'm sure no animals were harmed in the making of that movie.
Well, they're probably all CGI animals nowadays.
A lot of them, yeah. So
yeah, but anyway, stars Emma Stone plays Cruella, and then there's another character who is really important, and this is played by Emma Watson. So the British, not Emma Watson, Emma Thompson.
In here,
sorry, not Emma Watson, Emma Thompson. Sorry, Thompson, Thompson, not Watson. Emma Thompson, who's in the Harry Potter movies. She's in Love Actually. She's in a ton of movies. She's a wonderful British actress, and she plays a very important main character in Cruella.
She was P.L. Travers in Saving Mr. Banks, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that's coming up next week. We are also going to touch on What If episodes 2 and 3. So we will also be seeing those, but our main focus next week will be Cruella. Guys, if you like our show, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere at Plus Platoon. And we are also available for podcasting to listen to us on podcast later. So you don't catch us live, catch us later. We are on Spotify, Amazon, Google, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, soon to be Apple, we hope.
But if you want to see our beautiful faces, you can still watch us on YouTube, even if you're not watching us live.
You want to see beautiful faces and Pete and I, you can watch us on YouTube. So with that being said, guys, we are saying good night tonight, and we will see everyone next week for Cruella. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews, as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode, because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.